Today's Dharma talk is on the beginning of the path of the Bodhisattva. The practice of the Bodhisattva is a person who, through compassion for self and for others, walks upon the path towards the attainment of Buddhahood. The path begins with the gaining of knowledge, understanding, and practice of the first teachings of the Buddha, the Four Noble Truths, and the acceptance of the 5 precepts of the Buddha. The 5 precepts are like the Buddhist version of the 10 Commandments. Statistically speaking, there's half as many, so it should be twice as easy, but I'm sorry that's not so. The first precept is the abstaining from the taking of life. In Buddhism, this means all life, not just human life. This is why so many Buddhists today are vegetarian, so as not to involve themselves in the termination of the life of others. Vegetarianism is not a precept of the Buddha. It has become a tradition in Buddhism. It was several hundred years after the time of the Buddha, when a king in India, King Ashoka, one of many, many kings in India at the time, spent 40 years taking over his neighbours by military force, one after the other. And at the end of this 40-odd years, after the death of hundreds of thousands of fellow Indians, he came into contact with the concept of Buddhism. In an attempt to improve his karma in the next life, he commanded that all of India become Buddhist. And he commanded that all of India become vegetarian, which they did. And over the next several hundred years, India slowly turned back to Hinduism. But the concept of vegetarianism remained, in most cases. So today, we now have the tradition in Buddhism, in the trying to attain the first precept of the Buddha, to abstain the taking of life, we get involved in the concept of vegetarianism. And others are even further into veganism. The second precept is to abstain from taking what is not ours or not given. This does not just mean possessions. It's much more farther reaching than that. It can mean taking other people's emotions through manipulation, or taking someone's creative ideas, or stealing someone's thunder in the workplace, or other forms of deceptive attainment. The third precept, abstain from improper speech. This involves abstaining from tale-bearing, harsh language, gossip, rumour-mongering, untruthfulness, being verbally dishonest, being rude and sarcastic, and also to abstain from vain talk. A person who is following this precept is often quiet and thoughtful, and their speech is factual and full of sense. The fourth precept, to abstain from immoral behaviour. This does not only refer to sexual behaviour, but also our daily behaviour in our relationships with our family, friends, workmates, and others that we come into contact with on our daily lives. And please remember, when I use the term others, I don't just mean other humans, I mean all others. The fifth precept to abstain from the ingestion of intoxicants and mind-altering substances. This one is quite self-explanatory. Buddhism is interested not only in our emotional contentment and happiness and psychological health, but it's also interested in our physical well-being. The next step on the path of the Bodhisattva is being involved and taking into our lives and understanding the Four Noble Truths. First Noble Truth, that in this life there is suffering and dissatisfaction. Not necessarily that you and I suffer, but that there is suffering, there is discontentment, there is dissatisfaction. The second noble truth is that there is a cause for this dissatisfaction, for this discontentment and this suffering. And the cause is our wanting, our lusting, our craving, and our attachments. The third noble truth is that there is a way out of this suffering. There is a way out of this wanting, this lusting, this craving, and these attachments. A way out of this suffering, this discontentment, this unhappiness. And that is through the practice of the Eightfold Path. The Eightfold Path of right understanding, right mindedness, right speech, right action, right livelihood, right effort, right attentiveness, and right concentration. With the 5 precepts conjoined with the Eightfold Path. This is the beginning, what is known as the middle way, or the middle path. The middle way, the way of the Bodhisattva. Buddhahood, the way to Buddhahood, and eventually enlightenment. These are the core teachings of the Buddha. The Buddha gave over 80,000 teachings in his lifetime on more than 100 subjects. Most of these teachings are designed to give us support and knowledge, understanding in our practice. So these are the core teachings. With the 5 precepts conjoined with the 4 Noble Truths and our practice of the Eightfold Path, this is the simple beginning of the journey of the Bodhisattva. The first steps is where we turn on our life and walk towards the Buddha.